Hello, and welcome to What You Talking Boot. I am Rex the Boot Atkins, and today I'm super stoked. I talked with one of my favorite wrestlers. I performed with him a few years ago at Buffalo Championship Wrestling, and he is a former ECW star, a former wrestler for 0-1. He's even most recently been featured on NWA Power. If you're a fan of old school wrestling with a new school edge to it, then I think you'll like this guy a lot too. He recently announced his retirement, and the scuttlebutt is he might be coming back. He might be Terry Funkin' it. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is none other than C.W. Anderson. Today, we talk a little bit about his history, his introduction to wrestling, and his time with ECW. But we also talk about his personal problems. We talk about the frustrations and the hardships of not just being a wrestler, but life after wrestling. And it was really nice to talk and catch up with CW. It's been a while. And I really hope you guys enjoy this, because I enjoy talking to him, and I hope to do it again soon. So, with no further ado, please welcome C.W. Anderson.
Read the rumors on the wall, they'll remind you can run and you can hide, but we'll find you. Fuck Ernie and Bert, I revert into a vampire mind state, the more the style.
My job's been kind of busy, kind of crazy, so that hasn't slowed down, but dude, do I miss the weekend travels? Do I miss the shows and all that stuff? You know, the seminar I did last weekend made me realize, and I've seen things. I've been to a few little events that made me realize I made a huge mistake. It was when I retired, I was in a very dark place in my life. It's still one of the worst places I've ever been. And I thought this was going to bring peace and happiness to everybody. And everybody's been wanting me to retire and I would finally be at some kind of peace. And it was the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's really difficult to understand sometimes, because you see everyone through Facebook. That's how I see you all the time. And everything looks great, right? Social media makes everything look like everything's peachy. So you don't really know what's going on with people. So when you made that video, I think it took everybody a minute to realize what the hell's going on. I thought everything was great, and then you're gone,
My life was in turmoil. It was shattered. Yeah. And I realized I'm tired of giving other people happiness to an extent, and it's time to make myself happy. Even though, dude, I had even contemplated suicide that night. It run across me because 27 years, Rich, I've been C.W. Anderson. And before that, I was a high profile baseball player. So I've been pretty much in the public eye since I was 9 years old. I've never had anybody from my area and it's not bragging, it's the damn truth. Anybody can answer that. Just grew up in this area. When you talked about playing baseball, I was the standout. I was the thing people came and watched to see because of how I could play. And I would always stand out. Then again, the public eye, and it would transition straight into wrestling. And, and being in that business, you're always in the public eye when you're at shows. And that day, because I retired on this little trail that I walk, and I collapsed after I filmed the video because it was coming to realization, I've been C.W. Anderson, and C.W. Anderson's taken over my life. I don't know how the hell just to be Chris Wright.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah. It's
going back to normal.
It's such a tough thing to come to a realization of something especially when something is really over, when it sets in that maybe it's really over. I myself have had some, injuries recently, knees, and tore my bicep tendon, all these little things that are just going shitty. And it's kind of started sinking into me a while back that maybe it was really over. Maybe I really can't wrestle. And when that finally said, it was just a bizarre thought. I was driving, and when it really hit me, it was the same thing. I almost had a panic attack. I just couldn't handle that overwhelming feeling of oh, holy shit, it's really over.
Yeah.
But with you,
scary.
Obviously this was, there was some mental strain there. Physically, you're probably in the best shape of your life, no?
Absolutely. I hovered when I was at ECW. I hovered between 250 to 270. I think my worst was like 275, and that was my match with Kid Cash at was it Heat Wave? Maybe we were in Milwaukee, and I wrestled Kid Cash. Jazz come out and slap me. Yeah. I was in the worst shape of my life at that time because I remember that Monday afterwards. I had just went and bought an elliptical machine to work out, and it was crazy. Tommy called me as I got it in my truck. He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I just went and bought an elliptical machine." He said, "Good." He said, "Paul told me to call you and tell you that you're getting too fat. You need to lose weight." Cause
that's a little harsh.
Right? He said, "We're getting ready to start pushing you, and we need you to be in better shape."
Okay.
I've been around 250 always from the time I got out of college. That's where I hovered at, so I was able to work at that weight quite well. And then a couple years ago, I had a big thing happen in my life that I got down to 204 pounds.
Right.
And this last thing that I was going through, I was under 200 pounds. A lot of people didn't see that. I got under 200 pounds and I look bad.
I was going to say, yeah, that would be kind of scary looking, I think, at a guy your size.
Yeah, it was. My buddy, my best friend, he said my face looked sunk in, and it had gotten really bad to the point where I was like, okay, I got to do something. I got to snap out of this. And, because I didn't have wrestling. I didn't have anything to look forward to on the weekends anymore. I just go to work and come home. I have my two Rottweilers that are kind of my life and take them for walks, but shit, you can't do that so much. And, right now I'm at 215, and that's where I've been for the past few years. And I feel amazing, dude. And that's what George South, the day after everything happened, I talked to George South, who's been a very influential person in my life these past few years. And he's like, CW, he said, I know. He said, I know the reason you retired. He said, but wrestling needs you.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree with that opinion.
And he says, again, you're in the best shape of your life. You're moving it better than you ever have. He says, this wrestling business needs you to teach these young kids. He said, because CW, you've seen the business. It's going to shit. He said, we need people like you that can still do both ways. And, he really was talking some sense into me.
Yeah, no, that's 100% correct. So I said that in the intro, that's, I think, one of the best things about even having you at a live event is the locker room. You can help the talent that's in there. You can help the young guys like me or whoever that you're working with that night, step up a level just through, just with wrestling you one match. I learned so much and realized, certain things were, some stuff I was doing right, but other stuff, just watching and just working with you, I was able to pick it up and realize oh, okay, I don't have to do all this crazy stuff or all these stupid, twisty spot. I can put it together in a way that works and looks real.
You and I aren't built for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
You were born an 80s wrestler like me. We weren't born this new 205 pound, 5'6", 5'7", flip around. We're not airborne. We're infantry. And when the night I wrestled you told me in the back, he's like, because a lot of the stuff I just called in the ring, and you're like, I didn't realize we could. It was that easy.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Rich, I even learned more last year because George South and I had a four match feud that they put up on YouTube and AML, and they called it the second greatest story ever told. And we did a little interview afterwards, and that was the day the interview they played afterwards was the day George talked to me. And I remember specifically after our second match when I beat George, that the promoter said he cried twice in our match because of the story we were telling and the realism we were putting into it. We didn't do one move out of the 80s. And he said, you guys made it so real. And I learned so much because one of my buddies, he was sitting in the back and he said, look at this. He said, have y'all ever seen anything like this before? And nobody couldn't grasp. He said, when's the last time you've been in a ring and CW didn't call a match?
Yeah. Yeah, that's some watching your matches too. I get that especially certain ones. And I could see how that would work with that program there, where people can actually suspend their belief. You know, they can actually get into it. They're not waiting for the next spot. They're not waiting for the next big car crash. They're invested in the actual story of what's happening between the characters. And that's something that I think is lost.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it comes from that line from the Beauty and the Beast. It's a story as old as time, or something along those. It's what our business was built on, and it still works. George and I proved that it still worked. We went wrestled at a WrestleCade match where it was half new style, half old school, and everybody was buying it.
Yeah,
and these fans have been programmed to the point of that's all they're waiting for is, as you said, the next big car crash.
Yeah, which I mean, I get. Maybe there is a match on the card that is that, you know, but when every match is the same story, it's you know, how many things are they going to keep kicking out of? That's every story. How much do I have to do to beat this guy? That's every single story on the card nowadays.
Look, if you have to hit everything you do and the kitchen sink and do a double team with somebody to pin one person, how weak does that make you look?
Right.
They don't understand. Sometimes they forgot about what the storytelling is. And Jack Victor told me a long time ago, we were at ECW, and he said, if you come to a show and the fans get an old school match, hardcore match, like a luchador match, you have some young kids that are opening a show, you give them a little taste of every match, you're going to satisfy everybody in there. And they're going to go away happy. But if you give them 10 hardcore matches or 7 old school matches, or 7 of the same things, like you were saying, 7 matches where everybody's kicking out 7, 8 times, the fans get tired.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been plenty of shows that I've watched from top to bottom. Just, you know, I wrestled and I watched the whole show. And even I love wrestling, but I get bored. I just get tired of it. It's the same thing over and over. And that's why I agree with George Self that wrestling does need you and people like you to show all these kids what is right, what's wrong. Because a lot of times now there's nobody in the locker room like that. The inmates are running the asylum, so to speak. It's just no rules. It's a free for all, and the card's not built from beginning to end. It's just everyone can do whatever they want on any part of the show. You can do a dive in the first match. You can do whatever, and there's no rules. It's a free for all. You know, everyone wants. Yeah.
The AML promotion I work for, I'm kind of the enforcer in that locker room to the point where, you know, these guys. I got on this one guy named Axton last year because him and the kid went out there and they were doing dives and shit in the first match, and he couldn't grasp the concept of why he shouldn't do that, to the point where he said, whatever, CW. He walked away, and I said, don't fucking walk away from me.
Wow. Yeah,
because he doesn't. The match, each match is put in a spot for a specific purpose. And you're not out there. If your first match, you're not out there to get your shit in to everything. You're not supposed to hit everything. You're there to get the crowd amped up for the following matches. That's your job. And they forgot that the guys go out there in their first match that they got to get all their shit in.
Right. And it means so much more later when something happens. Like, even I learned that lesson years ago with just something as silly as a chop. We were just doing those northern tours, and it was very short cards. They're like 4 matches with a bonus tag match at the end. And I realized, like, if nobody does a chop, I was going on third, and nobody does a chop the entire beginning of the show. When I hit that big chop finally at the end of whatever we're doing, it's getting such a big reaction because they haven't seen it all night. Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, bang, there's that gunshot chop, and it literally rocks people like they don't expect it. Whereas previously everybody was doing, 10 chops every match and nobody cared.
You're right. I've even said to those guys that when we're in the locker rooms and they're going to because they love watching me watch the stuff because they see how mad I get when these kids are doing dumbest stuff. And I'm either semi-main event or main event or something along those lines. And I ask them, what in the hell have you left me to do out there?
Right.
If I get pinned by a claw or get pinned with something really simple and you've kicked out of a reverse Rana off the top rope in the first match, what the hell am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be strong and getting pinned with something that simple? And these kids don't get it because a lot of times they're not properly trained.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure you deal a lot with that, being with the fact you have a beautiful super kick, and I'm sure nowadays there's probably about 14 of those before you get out there.
Oh, absolutely. And they've gotten to the point that if I'm on the show, you don't super kick or you don't hit a spine buster.
Of course,
yeah. I had one kid in the first match, and he come in the back, and the rest of the locker room got on him. He was like, "Did you realize who's on this damn show?" And he had no ground concept. And it wasn't until they explained to him, holy shit, you just did not only a spine buster, but with an Anderson on the show. And he didn't grasp the concept of it. It was crazy that you're not supposed to do that move.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because I think there's people that are wrestling now who don't even really know. You got to figure they were probably okay. For instance, I have a friend Liam from England. He started wrestling, I think, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I forget that he's only 19 years old. So when he first started watching wrestling, this was like 10 years ago. He doesn't know anything previous to that. So he doesn't realize, if he were on a show with you, he probably wouldn't know much about Arn Anderson or C.W. Anderson or any, thing about the spine buster being an Anderson thing. And he would just go out there and just do it, not even realizing. And I forget sometimes that a lot of these kids are very young and they just don't know the history.
Yeah, that was brought up in our seminar last week. These kids are, what's the first feud you remember seeing? And someone said the Roman Reigns thing, and I went, or something that I can't remember because I don't watch that. I don't watch WWE. I don't watch none of that stuff. Yeah. And I do know, and they're like, I'm expecting, Flair and Funk or something along those lines. And he said Roman. I'm like, what?
Doesn't it make you feel old?
Yeah. It's hard to grasp the concept of it. And
speaking of fandom, what age did you start watching wrestling?
I can tell you the exact match and almost the exact day. It's on, and I did not know this until I YouTubed it.
Oh, okay.
So when I grew up,
you did the research.
Yes, because I wanted to know if it was there. If it was a daytime, it was like July of 1984. So that would have put me at 13 years old. My brother was a huge wrestling fan because we live and still in the same area outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. And he watched the NWA. I didn't care nothing for it. I didn't care nothing for wrestling because I was all baseball, baseball, baseball. And one day he says, because my brother's 3 years younger than me, and he goes, Chris, just sit down with me this morning and watch this match. Just one match, just watch it with me. It's a big match. He says, see if you like it. If you don't like it, I won't never ask you again, because he was always asking me. I was like, no, I hate wrestling, whatever. I said, all right, I'll sit down and watch it. Well, the Rock and Roll Express fought Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev for the NWA belts. Okay. Russians were the champs. Rock and Roll had just come in NWA, if I'm not mistaken. Well, the finish was Ricky Morton. I think it was a victory roll that Ricky beat Uncle Ivan with. And when they pinned him, my brother and I were jumping around the room because, it's in the early 80s and you had the Americans and Russians that were the real prices, so forth. And I was hooked from that day forward.
That's a great first match.
It was like July 84.
That's amazing. That's a great first match. Ricky Morton, I think that's one person that a lot of younger guys don't even realize how great he was. Like, they see him now and he's doing, goofy stuff online or whatever. He's making jokes and stuff, but they don't go back and watch. He was probably the most underrated babyface, I think, of all time. Like, just unreal.
Tom Pritchard, every time he talked last weekend about being a babyface, studying a babyface, doing babyface stuff, Ricky Morton was the one he used. And he kept saying, I keep hating to use Ricky. I was like, he's the best. Why not?
Yeah. Everything about him, from his hair to his face, the way he moved, just everything was just, underdog babyface. And
I've wrestled him easily 100 times, it feels like, and being in the ring with him and him doing the selling and trying to getting people into it, and that babyface stuff of watching the mastery of him is amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure with him it's just instinctual now. He doesn't have to think about it, but he's unreal talent.
A few years ago, I'll tell you this. A few years ago, everything come full circle. I'm sitting in the locker room at a show right down the road from where I'm living, and on my left was Ricky and Robert, and on my right was Barry Darso. who was Crucial Khrushchev. And of course, Uncle Ivan had been passed away for about 4 or 5 years at a time. Those 3 guys sitting beside me, and they're the ones that got me into wrestling, was kind of crazy, just sitting there.
Yeah,
I'm like marking out on the inside.
Sometimes I forget that when I'm in certain scenarios, and then I realize I kind of take a second look around and be like, "What the hell?" Like if I was a kid and knew that I was going to be sitting here with these people around me, talking, shooting the shit, it would blow my mind. Like I had that same thought with Ricky Morton when I was in just outside of Kingsport somewhere, and he just showed up. He wasn't even on the show. He just showed up, and he ended up working the show. And I just remember sitting there getting dressed across from Ricky Morton. I'm thinking in my head, like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is so bizarre to me that he's here.
Yeah, you're a little childhood hero, people you grew up watching. The very first time I wrestled Dusty Rhodes, we were at his TCW promotion. This was right after ECW. And I knew Dusty from ECW, but never really got close to him. And then I got really close to him at TCW. And the first time I ever got in the ring with him, we were wrestling a bull rope match. And they're strapping us up with the bull rope. And on the outside, I've told this story 100 times. I'm big bad C.W. Anderson. Anderson's hate Rose, the whole nine. So I'm playing the character. On the inside, I'm 12-year-old Chris Wright going, holy shit, I'm in the ring with Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, that would be surreal for sure. What age did you start training? I know the baseball stuff happened. You were offered a deal with baseball, but you didn't do that. You went to school.
Yep.
Is that correct?
I look back at it now. I'm like, what the hell is my mom thinking? She said to go to the school. The pros always be there. And I'm an 18-year-old kid that never went anywhere, never did anything, I never went outside of North Carolina. Just listening to her, I should have went to the pros because school was already been there. But it's whatever. It is what it is. I wrestled a little bit in this little backyard promotion when I was like 16, 17, down from where I'm living at. One of the guys that was an indie wrestler had a ring and had it set up in the yard, and a bunch of us went over there, and he would like show us little things, and we'd do stuff. But as far as training and doing it more than what that was a 22 or 20. I think I was 23.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was 20. I was 23 and never really got trained by anybody.
Right.
I just got in with a bunch of the guys that were already wrestling, and they would show me things, or I would just kind of do things what I saw on TV. And it wasn't until like in 98 when I got down to the power plant that I formally got trained by somebody.
It was that late that you went to the power plant. Okay, I thought it was earlier than that you were there. So 98?
No, it was February 98 because I was there because I got my job at ECW the following year, June of 99. So I went down and did that tryout at power plant in February of 98.
Oh, okay. So there wasn't very much lag time between the power plant and you being on ECW.
Mm-hmm. I was there a year, got frustrated, and I had enough of that place because it was so poorly run.
Actually, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine about that. When you were at the power plant, were you offered a deal with WCW?
No, I think that's been the rumor. I was talking to somebody about that on an interview the other day. I was never offered anything. I think that was Joey and Paul made that up just to say that I made the jump to take the chance at ECW. And to be quite honest with you, Rex, man, I don't think I would have taken an offer because of how frustrating that place was. When Paul Orndorff and J.J. Dillon came to the power plant that day to look to see what kind of talent they had, and I wrestled, and I had the match that made the boys stand on their feet. Brad Armstrong was there. He's like, man, because I wrestled a good friend of mine, and we were doing some stuff where Brad Armstrong said, man, that's some ECW shit right there for what we were doing. And then Paul Orndorff and J.J. Dillon told me I was an okay wrestler, but they didn't think I could make it in WCW because they were more of a marketing company. I didn't really have a look.
They were there looking for one thing in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were looking for the next bodybuilder type.
Yeah. So then when I got my little chance at ECW, I was always a fan of ECW, watching because they were that thing you didn't talk about because you watched them late at night on MSG and see all the crazy crap they were doing, and you hear all the horror stories of that locker room. And then when you get there and find out, like, oh, this stuff's embellished a little bit. There are the things there, but when you're inside, you're family.
Yeah, I was listening to you talk to Francine about that. How you guys all still, would exchange Christmas gifts and that you really were. And I looked at, I didn't realize it was only a couple years that you guys were all on the road together with ECW. And in that amount of time, you guys became so close. That's really cool to me, because I have a similar relationship with the guys that I used to travel with up north in Canada. And it's memories that I'll never forget. I was thinking about this the other day. Would I trade my memories of wrestling? I was all depressed about wrestling and how it's gone. The pandemic's ruining it and everything. But I was thinking in my head, would I trade all my memories and all my experiences in wrestling for $5 million? And there was the first time in my life where I wasn't actually jumping at the bit, like to get the money in my brain, right in the fantasy. I was thinking like, man, that would suck to get rid of all those awesome memories,
100.
Hanging out with the guys, traveling, and
I've had, when I was working in Japan, Rick, I made a good amount of money. And I remember one tour coming back home, and I'm a electronics nerd, so I buy gadgets and shit like that. So, and I buy, all those things. Well, I bought myself and my girlfriend all the little gadgets and trinkets, and I bought a DVD player that was 3 or 4 years more advanced than anything here in America. I bought it in Japan. I bought all this stuff, and I still had thousands upon thousands of dollars left in the bank, and I couldn't think of anything else to do. And I remember calling one of my girlfriends that I've known a long time, and I said, I bought this, I bought this, I bought this. I don't know what to do now. I'm bored. It showed me, and I just got a divorce with a woman that made a lot of money. And I told her the entire time we were together, don't give a damn about your money. I don't care. Money doesn't make you happy. And I've seen that to be true. So yeah, I agree with you. The memories that I got, because I have, you have stories for days with things.
Yeah. And it's just that lifestyle. Like I would do those little Northern Canadian tours for the rest of my life if I could physically do it. And even if I never, ever got rich, I just had enough to pay my bills, I would live happily the rest of my life, wrestling in the middle of nowhere for a bunch of First Nation kids every night. Like it's awesome. It sucks because if I want to start wrestling again, I probably, shouldn't say that because people are not going to want to pay me because it's not about the money at all. Like I would do it for free. I would, if there was no option and I had to do it for free, I probably would. Because it's great. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do anything crazy. I'm not I play my video games, and that's it. Wrestling is my escape. I get to be somebody else and be around a lot of people that I consider family. A few weekends ago, my girlfriend and I went over and stayed in Winston-Salem for the weekend. Normal WrestleCade wasn't happening this year, we still went like it was WrestleCade and spent it up around that area and hung out and went to all our normal stomping grounds because that's where the promotion we work for runs. So that place is like home to us. And instead of just going to the beach or going to the mountains, we went there and spent our little mini vacation because that felt like home. Hung out with some friends that we wrestle with. So that part, man, that family atmosphere with those people is what I'm all about. Yeah, for me too, it's a lot of that. It's almost not even total. Like I love wrestling, but it's not even necessarily just the show that I care about. It's just being on the road. It's traveling. It's hanging out. It's going to the gas. Excited for that gas station stop after hours of driving. Like I could do that for the rest of my life.
The stories that you have that you're going to get when you get home, like, man, you remember this? We did this. This is a story. And I'm like you, the wrestling I don't care about. It's the being in the locker room with everybody, before the show, seeing everybody. If we got a 2 or 3 day loop, staying in the hotels, eating breakfast with everybody downstairs, just that whole atmosphere, man. People don't understand. And my parents, or my mom pretty much, they don't understand because she keeps saying, why don't you, she was one that was a big advocate on me retiring. Why don't you, because I got a regular job, why don't you just be normal, have a normal life? I'm like, to me, this is normal.
Doesn't that sound horrible to you as well when you think of that? Like what's wrong? Like there's nothing wrong with people who want to live that life. But for me, like it's the same thing. Like when it comes to an end, and like when I get home after a tour, we'll be gone anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks straight. And then when it's over and I get home, I'm good for about a day. And then I'm pacing the house. I'm walking around. I don't know what to do with myself. It's like, I'm used to being on the, like, go. And now I'm just sitting in a house doing nothing or working a job where I'm going to the same building every day. It's unbearable.
The end of the loops, or at the end of the weekends when we were doing 1 and 2 day nights, coming home, I was so depressed knowing I had to go back. I mean, because I like my job. My job's not that hard. I get to work outside. I get to go around different places. I'm not stuck at one place all the time. I'm usually at several different places a day. So that's not bad. But just coming home and being normal drives me insane.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. With ECW, there was actually James from St. John's, New Brunswick. He already had a couple. I usually do the fan questions at the end, but we're already talking about ECW, so I'll just throw it in there.
Sure.
He had one question, which was, is the ECW locker room as tight of a brotherhood as everybody says? I think we already kind of touched on that. Clearly, the friends you made there were lifelong friends, and you guys are still in touch to this day. He wanted to know also, what were the final days of ECW like?
Paul was never around. Tommy was pretty much running the company, and I got in a lot of trouble with Paul for saying this, but I'm going to say it again because I wasn't the one that brought it up. It was told to me by the higher execs. Paul kept telling us he was out in California trying to save the company when the rumor found out, or it was rumored that he was out there filming the movie Rollerball, because that movie came out not long after ECW shut. I myself never thought ECW would close. I'm like, how can ECW close and go bankrupt? This is ECW. To me, that was like saying there'd be no more WCW or no more WWE.
Because the houses, you guys were still drawing, right?
Yeah.
It was it was bigger than ever, right?
So much. Yeah, we were still drawing. We went to Canada not long before this all went down, and had the largest house show in ECW history. Had like 6,000 people. That's the night I worked RVD. We were continually still drawing. Even the last 2 nights in Arkansas, we drew packed houses. There was a few that kind of knew. I was just like, no, this can't be happening. People were like, people saying we're closing. There's a rumor that we're not going to be around anymore. And we were kind of depressed a little bit because at the end, my little traveling clique was Tommy and Franny, Jack Victory, Steve Carino, and Louis Dangerously, and we were all riding together. And I think it was either Franny or Lou made the comment, well, I think this is our last time together. Oh, yeah. I'm like, no. I was like, really? And I'm kind of putting it off like something to happen, something to come through. And it never did. Paul never told us that we were done. But when we knew, we still thought we were having Living Dangerously, the pay-per-view.
Right.
And when Paul showed up on Raw with Jim Ross as a commentator, I went, oh my God, it's over.
Yeah, it's really over.
Paul never had the balls. Yeah, he never had the balls to tell us that it was over. And I was told by other people, other higher ups, there was a company that wanted to buy us, was going to pay our debt, buy us. Paul was still going to be in charge, but this company was going to have like 51% control and he 49, but he would still be the face and call all the shots, blah, blah, blah. And he said no.
Wow.
And I know why, because he said he never drew a dime from ECW. He never took a paycheck. Well, come to find out, you're drawing a paycheck from Vince. That's why.
Wow. So you guys, there definitely was a feeling there where people wanted, they were holding on to hope that something was going to work out, and then it's over.
It was just like that. And again, he never told us.
So the doors close up there. Sorry, continue.
I know. I was saying, if the doors are going to close and this is your company, be man enough to tell us.
Yeah, a little warning. Let you try to set something up for afterwards, anyways.
Yep.
Yeah. So the doors close up there. What's your first move?
I went through like an 8-month depression spell. I think I worked. I don't know if Dusty's promotion had taken or started doing something then. I don't think so. I'm not sure, but it was like August. I think I had the I Quit match in that January. That was on my last pay-per-view. It was like August before something ever come about. I went to England. And then I think it was the following year before I started going to Japan.
Okay. And that was for 0-1?
It was just for 0-1.
Okay. Yeah. And so in this time, obviously you said you were going through a little bit of a depression. Were your eyes ever wandering towards WWE? Were you ever thinking that?
I had hope, but WWE took the ones from ECW they wanted. I think Tommy may have said that they didn't really want me because of my look.
Okay, so they were still in that era where...
Yeah, they were still in that. Yep. Even, Rich, even when I got signed in 2006 and they brought back that Disney version of ECW.
Yeah.
They were still that, because I remember Tommy telling me, he's like, do you have any steroids on you? They're going to make you 6'3", 6'4", because Vince is a height and body guy.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like when I watched you in ECW, it's like right away, there's obviously right away you get the Arn Anderson comparison, right? And to me, I feel like there's always a need for a guy that's kind of that grizzled, tough man. Not a pretty boy, like not a bodybuilder. Yeah, but a man, right? Like just the guy looks like he worked with his hands and he could build anything.
That's why they didn't do anything at me at Imp or TNA, because I don't think it was, God, who was it? Dutch Mantell and a couple others. Jeff Jarrett wanted me there. Dutch Mantell said something about my look, because I wasn't in that greatest shape at the time. And Terry Taylor said, he looks like a fucking man.
Yeah.
You tell me, Arn's the only one that's ever been in a quote unquote shape. We look like men because we're professional wrestlers. We're not sports entertainers. That's the whole thing. We don't have a pretty boy look. We don't have a bodybuilding physique. We look like men and can wrestle.
Yeah, you look like a guy who, if you saw him at the bar, you wouldn't fuck with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, So Japan comes, actually, you know what? When you went to England, who were you working for there?
I really don't remember the promotion.
Oh, okay.
I don't.
It wasn't like Brian Dixon or anything like that.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I forgot who he was. All I know is the good thing about it was the guys were excited because they only were drawing 50 people a time. And then when I came, they drew over 700.
No shit.
Yeah. So I guess my name had a little bit of a value.
Yeah. I didn't know if ECW was a big deal in England or not. I'm never sure what their, I guess, they get all the American television too. So.
And plus they said they were getting a lot of videotapes. I had a lot of people tell me, said we saw you on video on VCR.
Wow. So you go to 01 and you're there for years, right?
7 in total.
7 in total.
Yep.
While you were there, would you say that was like your new home?
Oh, absolutely. I'd always say I always had to say, and when we pull up at our hotel, the Japanese word from I'm home is called Tadaima. I would say that when I go in the hotel room, and I would say that when I go into Corrigan Hall, because they had dubbed me the king of Corrigan Hall because I was like the most over American there. And I was on my little saying, Tadaima. But awesome. Yeah, that place, the funny thing about that, my very first tour, it had myself, Nova, Frankie Kazarian, and of course Carino. I think Loki was on the tour as well, and maybe Brian Kendrick with Spanky were some of the Americans. But I walked in the hotel room and realized how small it was. Immediately got on the phone with Continental and tried to change my flight to go home because I was out of my element. You can't read the signs. You can't speak the language. I didn't know where nothing was.
What it was weird.
And Carino talked to me. He's like, dude, he said, just give it a little time, man. He said, I was the same way. Give it a day or so. You'll start adapting. And after, the first tour was 2 weeks long. And after that, man, I was ready to come back. I loved it.
That's great. Yeah. Could you imagine if you would have said, screw this, just left?
No, it's the type of person I am, man. I'm such an introvert, and I'm nervous, and I'm very shy, and I'm uncomfortable in situations that I don't know. But once I got there and started learning the language and learning my way around, God, I love that place. I was so excited. Steve and I went about 4 or 5 years ago for the 15th. It was about 5 years ago for the 15th year anniversary, and could not wait to get over there. And I'm hoping he and I get to go back this spring for the 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, fingers crossed that the pandemic calms down a little bit and everything. You guys can go back to normal. When the WWE deal came up, how did that happen? Who's calling you? They were doing the revamp.
Mm-hmm. I get a phone call from Dreamer one day, which is rare for him to actually call me. And I said, hello, what's up? I said, hey man, what's going on? He says, he always starts with, what are you doing? I said, nothing. What's up? He says, WWE wants to hire you. I went, shut up. No, what are you really calling for? He goes, no, I'm serious. He says, they're bringing. Yeah, he says we're bringing back ECW. Paul and I are going to be in control. It's going to be like it was. You and I are going to start our feud back over. You're going to be one of our top heels again. It's just going to be like before. Are you interested? Do I have to go to Ohio Valley? No, you don't have to. You and Paul have complete control. Vince does not have his hands in this, right? Yes, we have complete control. I went, okay. I said, I'll sign with, a chance to revamp ECW. He said, we're going to run a little small bingo party places like we did before. It's going to be just like it was. That was the only reason I signed, because Tommy said they had complete control. They signed me for the base minimum, which is shit money. But at the end of the year, you get all your bonuses from house shows, TV tapings, pay-per-views. You get all that. So, I think the first year, the Dudley signed for $125,000, something like that, something really small. That's what they signed for. And at the end of the first year, with all the royalties, they made over $1 million.
Wow.
So that's what I was looking forward to.
Now you get there.
They signed me. Oh God! Once I get there,
the story changes a bit, right?
Oh, it's 180. When I get there, the very first night we did the ECW arena, and I worked Sabu. I think Kurt Angle worked Rob Van Dam. Paul sees the video of it and takes over the control. He didn't like the lighting. He didn't like the look. Nothing. So after that, it was his, and he started bringing his WWE guys to start making an ECW. We weren't getting on TV. I was doing house shows, and I was working like every other tour, but I wasn't getting on TV. The only TV match is my one with Punk, where they cut it down to like 6 minutes or something. Hated being there. Hated TV tapings, because you get there at like 11 o'clock in the morning. You don't get out till 11 o'clock at night. And if you're not working, it's even worse. So it got to a point where Francine and I were just ditching, going to the next town.
Yeah.
Tired. It was. How many times can you go to catering? How many times can you sit there and watch them put up the ring? You're just sitting in the stands, just bored out of your freaking mind. Watching them rehearse promos. Oh God, with a written script promo.
Yeah.
It was a miserable. Everybody was miserable, and from what I hear, people are still miserable there. Things haven't changed.
The handful of times that I've gone there just for extra work, stuff like that, it's the exact same idea, and it's even worse, I think, for those guys, because you don't want to step on anyone's toe. You don't want to get pissed off anybody. At the same time, you don't want to hide in the closet they put you in. So it's you never know where to be. And it's funny that you said that you guys started ditching, because the last time I did extra work for them, it was a Monday. I think at the time they were still doing a Tuesday taping for SmackDown, and I had to work at I think 7 a.m. or something the next day, and I had a 6-hour drive home. So I'm looking around, and our little area they put us in is right near the back doors of the building. And I just looked around, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not booked. Nothing's happening with me. No one's going to notice if I and I literally just grabbed my bags, and the show hadn't even started yet. I just walked out the back door and drove my ass home, because it was it was such a long day every time. And I knew that nothing was happening,
Yeah, no. I was excited when they signed, but I was so excited when I got fired. Johnny Ace called me and said, "See, we're going to have to let you go." I went, "Sweet." I said, "Can I go back to Japan?" And he kind of got taken away from it.
Yeah.
He went, yeah, I know you like being over there, but just don't go to TNA. We got a 9-day compete clause." I said, "Not a problem." I was excited as I got let go.
Yeah, you don't hear that side of the story very often. More recently, you're popping up on NWA.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I hope Billy brings it back. But that was a lot of fun. It's the closest thing to my 0-1 locker room and ACW locker room that I've gotten. It's a great atmosphere. It's fun being backstage. Everybody's kind of getting along, joking, laughing. It's a good time. The guys, I love all the guys' work. You got the studio wrestling set up. It's a lot of fun, man. Billy has done wonders with that. And I was hoping, the last one I was there, I did the quote unquote where I won a contract, and just hoping, things will start to take off for me there.
Yeah,
so I hope it comes back. I really do. Billy's made that a fun place to work.
I really like it. The total fanboy moment when I seen the set and everything, because it was so authentic. Everything looked exactly how it should. It was so cool. Like, I was actually like kind of daydreaming about it, thinking like, how amazing would it be if they had like Flair there for an episode and he's doing a promo on that set, you know, right back to where it all started, you know, like at least for me anyways, but
it was cool walking through the curtain for my very first match because nobody knew I was going to be there. And when I walked out of the curtain, half the people were like, holy shit, C.W. Anderson. And I got a huge reaction from a bunch of people. And it was good knowing, because there's all that part of you know, what generation of wrestlers or fans are there. And you're like, damn, I'm going to walk out and nobody knew the hell I am and get crickets. But I walked out when fans popped. And then everybody's like, man, you got to get CW the NWA title. It only makes sense that Anderson has the NWA title and stuff, which I was seeing a lot of that stuff on Twitter, which was very humbling that fans still thought I had enough to carry something like that.
Oh, hell yeah. I think that's a perfect fit for you, especially having the Anderson name and just your style, your look. Like it's almost like it was built for you to be on that show.
Yeah, so it's a fun place to work, man. I really like being there.
Yeah, I hope that comes back when everything settles down. You have a wrestling school?
I kind of trained. Yeah, it's the one that I've had forever. It's nothing formal where I'm going every week. One of my students, Victor Andrews, he kind of runs it. And I go and work out when I can, you know, just to keep the ring rust off. And I went down to Lodi's school a few weeks ago to train with him, and it'd been a while since I've been back in the ring, and I took one bump and I went, oh my God. I forgot it'd been like 4 or 5 months since I actually taken a really good bump, and I was like, okay, this can't happen. I got to get back in the ring some more.
Yeah, I'm scared to even get in a ring right now. I don't know, you know, just because a lot of places aren't open anyways for full contact wrestling and stuff. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I thought about maybe doing some shows again, and then I was like, I don't think it's safe. Like I need to get in a ring, and you know, or I'm going to hurt myself when I get in the ring and actually wrestle a match. Like
I was trying to wait till the first of the year to announce that I was coming back and I'm coming out of retirement, because you know, the one thing I hated was all the fans. I got like 22,000 views and messages and emails and things from fans all over the world wishing me happy retirement, congratulations on a great career, blah blah blah. And I'm like, man, I'm Terry Funking the shit out of this. But if they knew my life story and knew the things that people, you know, because we all go through so many things, they'd understand that I should have never retired. I should just, you know, kept my mouth shut and kept doing what I was doing, and then things would work out like they're supposed to. But hey, it is what it is now. And as long as I always told myself, when I can't get back to the business, when I can't go anymore, because I've seen veterans get in the ring and wrestle. And I remember looking at Johnny Swinger one night at a show, watching these two guys work. And I said, when I get to that point, I'm done. But I'm not there yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think you're, if anything, you know, peaking right now as far as your in-ring shape. And at least when I seen you look better than ever, in my opinion.
I feel better. I keep getting called Benjamin Button. Because, you know, in 3 weeks, I'm going to be 50 years old, and I look better now than what I did when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah. It's crazy. So speaking of the retire, we started with that. Let's end off on that. What's the deal? When do you think this is going to happen?
I want to come back when we're actually running shows again. I'm still going to be going to shows, and first of the year, I'll probably be back doing something, but what, I don't know. But, I would love to be back when everybody's back in the arena with fans and stuff. But I'm just going to go day by day. You know, I turned my life over to God back in June and July, and been putting a lot of trust in Him, and the universe is guiding me which way it needs to go. So whatever, it's one of those, what's going to happen is going to happen. I can't change it. If it's meant for me to be back in the ring when the crowds are there, I'll be back. If not, I'm just going to roll with it, enjoy the time I got left.
That's great, man. I want to thank you for being on here today. I really do appreciate it, man. It's a big help having someone of your level on the pod. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right,
you're
Chris.
welcome.
Take care, man.
See you, buddy. Later.
available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get podcasts. Video versions are available on YouTube.